You're saying it's now increasingly likely that Donald Trump will be president again. From the moves he's made in public and from all his statements, what's your best understanding of the kind of president he's likely to be in his second term? And I want you to explain this in the context of US governance and policy in the first instance, and then we'll come to the rest of the world.
Okay, in terms of US governance, I think that the markets, for example, like Trump the first time around, you'll remember they went up when he was elected. Why? Lower taxes, lots of deficit spending, less regulation, more support for CEOs, big industry, less focus on climate change, more focus on allowing American growth, also significant U.S. industrial policy. That is the orientation from a policy perspective. I do think that on the difference with a second Trump administration is that Trump feels much more vindictive this time around. He's been impeached twice, indicted dozens of times, convicted on 34 felonies, and now has faced an assassination attempt. And he blames the Democrats for all of that. He blames them personally. He thinks it's wrong. He thinks what they're doing is illegal. They're politicizing their power. He blames the left-wing media for that, who he refers to as enemies of the people. And I think one of the other things he will do in terms of governance will be to go after those people, to make them into priority enemies. And that means that he will try to politicize and weaponize the Department of Justice, the IRS, and the FBI. Which does potentially lead to a new McCarthyism in the United States, which also considerably strengthens the incumbent party. And this is where you get, Project 2025 that a lot of people have been talking about, and the desire to ensure that the bureaucracy in the U.S. government is politically loyal to Trump. So a big change, and those things will undermine rule of law in the United States.
Is there likely to be a stronger pushback toward Trump presidency in his second term? Because this time everyone knows that he can be around only for 4 more years. The first time around was all unpredictable, unexpected, and therefore no one had their instincts or thought through how to respond. Do you think there'll be a stronger pushback against any potential Trump excesses this time around?
Let's remember that a lot of the pushback came from inside the Trump administration. And so the question will be, will he allow the kind of professionals that don't agree with him and a lot of what he wants to do in the inner circle? I think it is less likely. I think he's learned more lessons over 4 years of governing. You've seen that in the campaign. He's running a much more disciplined campaign this time around than he did before. I suspect that will also play through in terms of governance. Now, more broadly, if Trump wins, it is quite likely that he's going to have a majority in the Senate. By the way, that would be true if Biden wins anyway, because the seats that are up in the Senate this time around, remember, it's only 1/3 of the seats every 2 years for 6-year terms. These seats are more vulnerable for the Democrats, so they likely have the Senate. They might get rid of the filibuster. You now have a Supreme Court that has just ruled that any official act by the U.S. president has impunity, according to the court, and he's likely to have the House. So, the ability for there to be checks and balances on power of Trump will be much more limited in 2025 than they were back in 2017.